Under Unit 2, Lecture 7, New Relation, Developmental Biology. Learning objective to impart knowledge to the students on new relation and the related experiments. Learning outcome. At the end of this lecture, students will learn the following objectives: concept of new relation, related experiments on embryonic induction. So we learned in the previous slides that when a zygote is formed, which is a unicellular cell, it undergoes rapid mitotic divisions to give rise to a huge number of cells. They undergo then differentiation to become different types of tissues. So this falls under the part of morula. Then we have blastula, then we have gastrula or gastrulation, where the cell movement occurs and they give rise to the three layers of our body, that is the epidermal layer, mesoderm and the endoderm. So from these regions, specific organs or tissues of the body will be formed in future. So one such part is formation of neural tubes or new relation, which we will learn today. So formation of organ is called as organogenesis. Now cell differentiation, it continues such that the three germ layers that I have talked about, endoderm, mesoderm and ectoderm, they develop into tissues and organs. Now new relation in chordate, what happens here? The notochord are those cells which lies along the dorsal surface of the mesoderm and forms a stiff rod. It provides a support or to the lower chordates. Its nearby mesoderm will become in higher chordates. Neural tube is also present, which is a structure which develops from the ectoderm germ layer. So neural tube, which usually lies above the notochord, it develops from the ectoderm germ layer, whereas notochord, which lies below it, it develops from the mesodermal layer. The neural tube actually gives rise to the brain and spinal cord. Together we can call it as a central nervous system. It is formed in a stepwise process in which the neural plate and neural fold, it migrates to form a neural groove and eventually the neural tube. So now we will see the elaborate picture of new relation. Now new relation gives rise, or it is an ectodermal process in which the neural tube is formed. Certain stages are there, like neural plate formation, neural groove formation, neural folds and their fusion, neural crest cells and neural tube. It begins during as early as the 4th week, that is 22 to 23 days, and ends by the 4th week, that is 27 days. So it's a very short time period when this process occurs, and it is induced by the notochord. So lots of induction process occurs, which actually gives rise to the cell fate, or it helps in differentiation of the cell in a predetermined way. Now here we see the picture of a neural plate, that is an ectoderm layer which has been thickened. Now the blue part is the actual ectoderm, and the central portion is also ectoderm, but since it has become a little bit of thickened portion, we are calling it as a neural plate. Now what happens here? That particular neural plate and the ectodermal region on both sides of the plate, they have a border which is in violet color, that is called as neural plate border. Why it is important? Because through this fold only there will be and groove formation in the center of the neural plate, because these folds will be raised up. So naturally a groove will form in the center. So that groove we are calling it as neural groove, and the violet portions, that is the raised folds, they will be called as neural fold. Now what will happen? Two neural folds will try to move towards each other, similar to the process of attraction. So they will come, they will fuse, and at a time, after a certain time, this violet portion will be removed, so that the blue portion, that is the ectoderm layer, it will separate this tube formation. So totally this will be separated. Now what happens during this process, certain cells are present at the site. You can see in yellow color, they are called as neural crest cells. So they give rise to certain parts of our body in the future. So what type of cell they can give? They can give melanocyte cell, they can give smooth muscles and connective tissue, they can give cartilage and bones. Through here we can also get endocrine and paraendocrine cells, PNAs of neurons and PNAs glia. This is a typical elaborate example in case of neurulation in Xenopus, that is the frog, Xenopus laevis. As you can see, the closure of the neural tube now separates the neural crest cells from the ectoderm. The neural crest cells, they will develop and differentiate to form the majority of the peripheral nervous system, or PNS, the ganglions seen, which is seen in the second image. Okay, so these neural crest cells, they are actually giving rise to the peripheral nervous system, and the mesoderm, which is present, differentiates to become the somites. So we can see these skin color portions, they are actually the body somites, that means body cells. So from where they are arising? They are arising from the mesoderm layer. So mesoderm is differentiating to give rise to body cells or somites, which eventually gives rise to parts of the skeleton and muscle system in the vertebrates. The neural tube, in future, it will become the brain and the spinal cord, and below it we can see there is a notochord. So that notochord, when the particular species develops, it will degenerate and become the intervertebral disc. So this is a typical picture of Xenopus laevis or frog development from blastula stage to tadpole. So this is actually the actual diagram which a person can visualize. That is gastrulation, that is neurulation. You can see the formation of neural cord, and that is a tadpole. Now we have certain experiments which give rise to different section of the body, or can be induced to give rise to different sections of the body. Okay. So because throughout this development of any organism, what happens, an induction process goes on. So this induction process can be due to the presence of cytoplasmic determinants within the cell, which that particular cell has acquired from its mother, or it can be through cell to cell interaction, which actually determines the fate of a typical cell. Here we have an example on cytoplasmic determinant. The famous scientist called Hans Spemann actually designed this experiment in the 90s, 1900. Here the question is, we have learned in the development of frog that there is a gray crescent region, which actually is very important as it is the starting point of gastrulation. So this gray crescent region was necessary for embryonic development or not. So the fact I have told that the gray crescent region is very important or significant in the development or gastrulation of the frog, this statement is actually proved here. So what he did, Hans Spemann, he bisected the frog zygote with a loop or with a single baby hair. So this particular baby hair, which is very fine, it helps in the bisection of the frog zygote, and this bisection actually splits the gray crescent into two equal halves. So if the bisection runs through the gray crescent region and divides it into two equal halves, in future it was observed that two normal embryos are produced. But if the bisection doesn't split the gray crescent equally, then the cell with the gray crescent, it becomes a normal embryo, whereas the cell with no gray crescent, it becomes a clump of undifferentiated cells or unorganized tissue, which the Spemann named as belly piece. So what is belly piece? Belly piece is actually an undifferentiated mass of cell. That means, in simple terms, the zygote has not been formed. So the undifferentiated mass of cell that is formed in a failed experiment, it will be called as a belly piece. So from this experiment, he concluded that the gray crescent region was very much necessary for embryonic development in case of frog or amphibians. Now, how it is possible? Because certain substances in the cytoplasm that we called as cytoplasmic determinants, they are very much necessary for proper development. If a cell does not have these cytoplasmic determinants, it cannot proceed to develop in the proper fashion. In particular, the frog needs cytoplasmic determinants from the gray crescent for normal development. Now, this is that particular experiment where you can see in the first case, the gray crescent, it was divided into two equal halves. So there was no problem, but two embryos were obtained, though they were smaller in size than an unbisected egg. Now in experiment 2, one part of the divided egg cell, it has the gray crescent and another didn't have. So the part which doesn't have any gray crescent, it's an undifferentiated mass of cell called as belly piece. So there is another embryonic induction process. Here Spemann and Mangold, they performed the experiment in the year 1924. They performed actually several experiments in developmental biology, but we have picked up one or two, and here the question is, can some cells induce other cells to follow a particular developmental path? So actually the second process, that when a cell can induce another cell, or a particular cell can determine the fate of another cell through interactive signals, how this can occur or whether it is true or not. Now the experiment, Spemann and Mangold transplanted the dorsal lip of blastopore from a non-pigmented frog gastrula to a new location on a pigmented frog gastrula. The recipient embryo formed a second notochord and neural tube in the region of the transplant, and eventually almost a complete second embryo is formed. So what has happened? This dorsal lip of blastopore actually is the region, in case of again Xenopus, where it gives rise to actually the gastrulation process, or we can say the cells start to migrate inside the embryo, or the movement starts through this dorsal lip of blastopore. This is the region close to that gray crescent area only, and as we have seen in the gastrulation slides, certain cell movements are there and they are given a specific name. So this cell movement actually starts from the dorsal lip of blastopore. Okay, so now what has happened? uh, they have transferred this portion, a portion of dorsal lip of blastopore to another embryo that we are calling it as recipient embryo, and they are seeing whether a second notochord can be induced there and neural tube in that particular region in the transplanted embryo of the second. So the conclusion, what they saw is they induce the host's ventral tissue to change their fate and form neural tube and dorsal mesoderm. So the dorsal lip of blastopore is capable of inducing the formation of a secondary embryo with proper anterior, posterior and dorsal ventral axis. They call this tissue the primary embryonic organizer. And the key induction in which the progeny in which the dorsal lip induced the dorsal axis and the neural tube is known as primary embryonic induction. So these particular cells of the dorsal lip, they have the capability to define the fate of a certain group of cells where they are transplanted in the second embryo. So the second embryo was very much normal. They had anterior posterior axis, they had dorsal ventral axis. So we have seen that in case of frog, whenever the egg is being fertilized or where the sperm hits the egg, the opposite side, just exactly 180 degree opposite, that side becomes the ventral portion. So in that ventral portion of the egg only, the dorsal lip blastopore cells were implanted from the first embryo, because they help in the induction of formation of neural tube. So here also they have seen that in the transplanted embryo, the cells didn't behave like the second embryo cells, but they were actually induced in that area to form the neural tube. So if we see the primary organizer, whom we are calling primary organizer, those cells which have the capability to actually induce other cells into developing or changing their fate into something else beyond their normal fate or normal schedule. So across the species we can see those primary organizers. For example, in case of sea urchin, it is micromeres. In case of frog, it is grey crescent. In case of amphibian or frog, we have dorsal lip of blastopore. In case of chick or humans, as we have seen, it was the primitive streak. So this is the experiment that was done, as you can see, from the dorsal lip of blastopore cells implanted into a second embryo. Now what is happening in the second embryo? Another neural tube is forming. So as a result, we can see in the C picture development of two embryos but attached in the middle, because from the neural tube two embryos were actually formed. So this transplantation of the dorsal lip blastopore from a pigmented new early gastrula to the region that would be the presumptive ventral epidermis or the belly skin in an unpigmented gastrula shown that the tissue not only continued to be the dorsal blastopore lip, it could initiate gastrulation and also embryogenesis in the surrounding tissue. So the pigmented donor tissue continued to form the chorda mesoderm, that means it's notochord, or it will give rise to the notochord, and other mesodermal tissue that it normally forms, and also induced the changes in the surrounding host cell to make tissues that particular embryo itself without transplantation would not have made. So these are all the experiments related to primary induction. As I have said, only 2 experiments I have shown. There are lots of experiments done by Hans and Spemann to show this induction process. So the conclusion is that this induction process, either it can be the cytoplasmic determinants which the zygote has already obtained from the mother's cytoplasm, because we know the cytoplasm along with the nucleus is inherited from the mother in the zygote, which is an unicellular organism. So this process actually occurs. Thank you.